Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome back to the main stage here at New Scientist Live. How's everyone's day going? Right, this is about as exciting as it gets. In the next few minutes, we're going to connect live to the International Space Station. We're going to speak to an astronaut. Some lucky people are going to get to ask him a question. It's all going to work. If it doesn't, we've got a model out the back of the ISS. We'll just go there instead. It's going to work. It's going to work. I'm going to leave the stage in a minute because we're going to go to the screens where our hosts, Craig and Libby, are going to take it from the reverse of the backstage onto the stage, and then we'll get to the space station. So, fingers crossed, everybody. Fingers crossed. Good.
Good afternoon all. Hello to everyone inside the Excel Centre. Hello to everyone around the world who is watching us live here in London's Docklands. Just to give you an idea where we are, if you look over there, through the cage and through those trees, that is the Olympic Park. That is also the home to BT Sport. And we are here today with thanks to BT Sport, New Scientist Live, and of course the European Space Agency. And thanks to Libby Jackson, who has had the greatest career, the greatest jobs in the world. Tell everyone watching around the world what you do for a living, what you've done for a living.
I work for the UK Space Agency. I manage human spaceflight and microgravity. I spent 7 years working in mission control, looking after the International Space Station. I've had an amazing career. It's brilliant. I love space.
You got to say stuff like, Space Station, this is Houston calling. Did you get to say that?
I would say Munich because I worked in Munich. But yeah, we got to say...
Hey, it's just as good.
It's just as good. And they would call us and say, Munich, we have a problem. And then we'd have to deal with the problem.
Was that ever said to you?
Oh yeah, that's been said to me.
Oh my word. I'd have that as my answer phone ring, you know that? Look, it's a very exciting day today because we have one of European Space Agency's astronauts 200 miles above our very heads waiting to talk to us, and all of you watching inside the hall and at home as well. Tell us a bit, about Paolo, our astronaut today, who's going to speak to us. What's he doing? How long's he been up there?
Paolo Nespoli headed up to the space station in July. He's going to be living and working in space, doing loads of science experiments. He's due home in December, all being well. The astronauts work basically a sort of normal working week, 8 till 6, Monday to Friday. They spend Saturday mornings cleaning the space station, doing their laundry, which just involves getting new clothes out of the drawer. They then spend their spare time sort of watching videos, talking to friends and family, just the same as we do. But it's all about the science experiments that he's doing in space.
That's exactly how I do my laundry. Just open the drawer, it's there. You're probably wondering why we're having a chat beside a wing mirror. We haven't just met in a car park. This truck, it may be small, but it packs a serious punch, because this is the truck that is basically the conduit for space down to London for us today. It's hugely important. We're basically going to speak to him through this. We will see his image here very, very soon. So let's talk about the communications, how all this is happening, because it's really exciting.
It really is. Let's talk about how we talk to Paolo first, because that's really simple. It's a telephone call. We're going to be talking into our microphones. It's going to be patched into the BT telephone system. It will wing its way across to mission control in Houston. They take that telephone call, they patch it into what we call the voice loops, the space-to-ground voice loops, all the voice communications between the space station and Earth, and Paolo will hear us. So we will have a conversation with Paolo. He'll hear us basically straight away. But then to get the video back down, that takes a little bit more work. The signal is going to go from the Columbus module, which is the European science lab on the space station. It will work its way through the systems on board, and then, because the space station's travelling at 17,500 miles an hour, we can't just track the space station across the sky. It takes about 10 minutes to go from one to the other. So the signal will get pinged all the way to geostationary orbit, which is 36,000 kilometres up there, back down to a ground station in White Sands, and then it's going to go through fibre connections all the way to the BT tower, and then to here, and then we'll see him on the screen and around the screens all around the world.
Amazing. 200 miles above, BT tower in the centre of London, boot to this little van. A little bit of pressure, lads. A little bit about, you're busy, are you? Yeah? What are you doing today? Just keeping an eye on the van?
Exactly.
Give it a little wash now and again. Good lad, get the coffees. How are you doing? How are the nerves?
Fine. We do this every weekend, so it's, for UHD, BT Sport, Sky, everybody. So
not a football match, and never mention Sky again, okay, in my company. Thank you very much. Only joking if you are watching Sky. Let's talk about the reason Paolo's up in space at the moment. What's he actually doing there? What's his actual project?
So every time somebody goes into space on the space station, we've got about 400 experiments that go on in any given year. We've got 6 astronauts up there. So Paolo is one of a crew of 6. We've got a team of hundreds of people all around the world who are doing those science experiments. The ones that Paolo's going to be touching, he won't be using all of those. Most of them are on him. We like to look at how the human body responds to time and space because that allows us to learn more about how we change. Being in space does bad things to your body. Your muscles waste away, your bones waste away, your eyesight gets worse, you lose weight. It's actually a bit similar to aging. So if we study how astronauts respond to their time in space, we learn more about how we will age and hopefully we can make our lives better.
Just a bit of background on Paolo as well. Incredible, really. The guy's 67 years old. This is his third space mission. The guy is a real veteran, a real old hand at this. And I guess that's important. You know, we only see things going right up there, and that's great. There's a reason for that.
Yeah.
You got experience. Experience is everything.
Experience and training. Astronauts go through years of training before they make it up into space. And it's great that Paolo has been there before. He spent 6 months on the space station about 7 years ago. That means when he got up there, he knew where everything was. He knew how to live and work in space, so he got straight on it. He's been working really hard ever since.
So we showed you basically the wing mirror of a van, and I realised that was a real treat for you. This is even better. The big empty hall. How about that? Exciting, eh?
Hey, it's backstage.
This is what happens when space and showbiz mix. Yeah, we are backstage. We're about to head onto the stage here in the XL. A huge, big crowd. 1,700 people expected in today. For those of you watching around the world, big old crowd excited about what we're going to see today. I hope you are too. We also have 5 competition winners as well. But I want to talk to you about spaceflight. I was very lucky many years ago to be part of an experiment with the European Space Agency involving... Let's pop these mics over here.
Yeah.
We can use these little trendy ones now. Yeah, but I've done the whole waitlist thing.
You have?
It's a pretty horrific experience. It's quite Hello. Oh my goodness, you came. Hello.
Hey, look at this.
Now, why are you and you and you and you and you not in school today? And I include the teachers in that. You're all very, very welcome. Good to see you here. You all excited? Yeah! What are we doing today? We're going to speak to an actual astronaut 200 miles up. We're talking about what it's like to float around in space. And there's a very special plane. It's based over in France, and it does something called parabolas. It flows up in the air like this and drops down. And just when it hits the top, they cut the engines, and the plane just drops down. And that's how astronauts train to float and work in space. I tried it. It makes you very, very sick. They call it the vomit comet for a very good reason. How much training is done on these now?
Every astronaut who goes into space gets time in those. They get used to the feeling of weightlessness. But it is just one part of the training. They also spend time in a giant swimming pool practicing their spacewalks. And they spend a lot of time just in rooms with mock-ups of all the experiments, making sure they know how to do them.
Amazing. It really is. I don't know how they do anything on it because you literally can't control anything. You float around like Superman. Let's talk about your job. What's it like an average day at mission control when you're sitting there? Is it like in the movies, rows of desks and people very stressed looking at lots and lots of screens?
Yes. It really is. It's like nothing else. When you walk into mission control, it feels like a cathedral. You've got these beautiful screens. There's a hushed tone. Everybody is there with the sole purpose of keeping the crew safe, keeping the vehicle, the space station, going round, and making sure that they do their mission, that all the experiments get completed. So every day is different. We plan the experiments that are going on for about 1.5 years in advance. Today's plan that Paolo's doing right now has been looked at by tens and dozens of people to make sure it's all right. When it goes according to plan, it's fine. But usually there's a problem, and that's when you get the call and you say, hey, this isn't working right, or that's not working right, and that's what mission control is there for, is to give them a helping hand and get everything done. Do the astronauts sometimes contact you just for a conversation? I mean, they must get lonely up there. Paolo's second mission was 156 days long. It's a huge amount of time to be floating above the Earth, isn't it? They have a very, very busy schedule. We hit them with as much work as possible, but you do, at the weekends, they'll call down to mission control just to say hi and just sometimes to hear a different voice. And they like to make sure that they know, that everybody on the Earth knows that they're being thought of, because all the astronauts know how important everybody here on Earth is to keep their lives safe and get the job done. Now, all these kids here today have just had their lunch and they had nice carrot sticks, didn't you? And you had a spinach burger as well, didn't you? And some kale chips, that kind of thing. You sure?
What can astronauts eat up there? Because they don't get to enjoy a nice bit of kale or cabbage, do they?
Not often. We have cargo ships that go to the space station, and they only go once every 6 to 8 weeks. You imagine only getting a fresh delivery that often. When they come, they get apples, they get oranges, they get something fresh, but nearly all of their food is tinned or dehydrated. It's a bit like eating instant mashed potato every day.
You'd love that, right? Instant mashed potato every single day. Yum. Yummy. Very yummy. We know they float around when they're up in the space station. What happens inside their tummies when they've eaten some food?
When you go into space, you don't feel the effects of gravity. So everything inside you equalizes. All the fluid that you're used to down in your feet all floats up, and your stomach floats up, so you don't feel hungry very much. We actually find that the astronauts sometimes lose weight, they lose mass, just because they don't feel hungry, so they struggle sometimes to eat enough.
Oh my goodness. What's your teacher's name? Miss Brown. Miss Brown, she wants to know, their teacher wants to know how they go to the toilet in space.
Everybody wants to know that. It's really the same as we do, but we use a bit of airflow to help things going in the right direction. That's all it is. There's a strap as well to keep you on the toilet.
Oh, lovely.
Yeah, little seatbelt.
Oh. How about sleeping?
Sleeping's great. People love sleeping in space. A lot of the astronauts say they have the best night's sleep ever. Their bedrooms are tiny, like the size of a telephone booth, basically. You have a sleeping bag that's got cutouts for your arms. You zip into it, and then you just close your eyes and go to sleep. Some astronauts like to pin themselves to the wall so they can feel a little bit of solidness on them. But a lot of them, and I know Tim Peake was one of them, just float, and they'll bounce around their cabin as they float through the night with their arms out in front of them, looking a bit like a zombie.
That's hard, right? Because we all like to cuddle into things when we sleep, don't we? Yeah, your pillow, or your cat, yeah. So it must be difficult. How do they train to sleep?
They really don't. They just have to get used to it up there. There's really very little we can do on Earth to make sure that we know what's going on with them.
What are they like? You mentioned Tim Peake. You worked very closely with him. We were also proud to see Tim up in space, weren't we, last year, and hear all the conversations. What was it like when he came back down to Earth? What was his body like? How did he cope with life?
Tim really adapted well to life on the space station. So when he came back to Earth, he felt really, really ill. Suddenly you're feeling gravity again. All your limbs are very heavy. And your stomach just falls back down, and you just feel really sick. The room spins. It took him a few days to get back to being on Earth, but he's fine now.
So we're very, very close to connecting to the space station. I want everybody to look up to the sky. I want you to imagine this. 200 miles above our heads, the space station is traveling at 17,500 miles an hour. You could get from here to Dublin in 45 seconds at that speed. It's incredibly quick. And on that space station, our friend Paolo Nespoli is getting ready to speak to us. It's going to be incredibly exciting. Not very many people in the entire planet get to do this, so you're part of a very, very special experience today that you guys are going to remember for the rest of your lives. Talk me through the communication, the experience we're about to have, what's happening between the space station, between Houston, between the BT Tower, and between us here as we speak.
Right now, the space station's coming towards the mission controller, checking that everything's okay. When they do, we will get the okay to talk to Paolo. Now, I told you about all those links. That takes a bit of time. So whilst Paolo will hear us straight away, we will hear a little bit of delay in his answers that come back. So it's really important we just ask him a question and let him respond.
Okay, and he likes these conversations, I'm
He
sure,
loves
because
these.
it's a long day up there, isn't it?
Yeah, he's got a busy day, but this will happen bang on schedule. They have a schedule every day, and he has a little blue box on it that says he's going to talk to London, and he'll be there waiting for us exactly at the right moment.
Does he get lonely up there, do you think?
He gets lonely. He gets the chance to talk to his friends and family whenever they want. They've got a Skype-like phone they can pick up and call everybody. So they've got pretty good communication.
Okay, well, he's ready to communicate with us now. Are you all ready? You know, he's going to be so excited to hear that cheer when he comes up on this big screen here at the moment. So we're live pictures there, mission control. They're getting ready to communicate with the space station. 200 miles up in the sky above our heads at the moment. A real-life astronaut is about to communicate with all of you, with all of us in the room, with everybody watching on Facebook. around the world. So we are now going to hand over to control. They're going to talk us through the initial conversation. They're going to set everything up. So it might take a few seconds. We're just going to...
This is Houston. Are you ready for the event? European Space Agency, this is Mission Control Houston. Please call station for a voice check.
Station, this is ESA Paolo from the Excel in London. How do you hear me?
And London, UK, Elena, good morning. I hear you loud and clear.
Perfect. Great to see you in great shape. There's a very huge live and alive audience here, so I'll just leave the word now to the conductors of the event, Libby and Craig. Enjoy the event.
Paolo, welcome to London. It's great to have you with us today. Please tell us that's not the actual planet Earth. We got a problem, Houston.
Absolutely no problem. I have a little plastic Earth here flying with me, but I can tell you that looking at the Earth from the window, the Earth looks magnificent as usual.
Paolo, how are you? How is your mission going? And what are you doing today? I can see your schedule on your knee there, so what's planned?
Libby, good morning. Actually, we'll say good afternoon, probably. Yes, it's going pretty good. It's been very busy so far. I mean, our schedule is kind of extremely busy. We had a cargo vessel that we loaded up, SpaceX. We loaded up a week ago, and it was a murder, and putting everything together, it was very interesting, very, very strong. And then now we are preparing for the spacewalks that will take place in the next 10 days. So again, we are very, very busy. And on top of this, we carry out, as usual, our good complement of experiments, science. We are growing vegetables. We have all sorts of things happening up here. It's very, very, very good.
Paolo, what area of the space station are you in at the moment? And also talk to us about your use of technology, your use of robots, and your reliance on robots when you're up in the space station.
Yes, I'm talking here from the Columbus laboratory. Space station is essentially composed of laboratories. There is a Japanese laboratory, there is a US laboratory, and this is the Columbus, the European laboratory built by the European Space Agency. We have all sorts of facilities here that allow us to do experiments on the life science, on the metallurgy science. I mean, we have all sorts of things, and it's it's a little bit chaotic, as you can see, but it's very, very efficient. Also because we can work in 3D, you know, we can go up on the ceiling here and be working here like a vampire, but it makes no difference here in space. And yes, so this is what we are doing here.
All the science experiments that you're doing, how are they going to help us back here down on Earth?
Well, Libby, you know, as you know, microgravity, it's a very interesting conditions that we cannot have on Earth. At least we cannot have it for longer than a few seconds on Earth. And here we can have it for extremely long period. And this allow us to see all sorts of things that we cannot see on Earth, and do all sorts of research and understand little things that gravity, with its all strength, it's masking. So with all these forces or little things are apparent here. And all the research that we do here, all the technological things are essentially made so that we understand better, our knowledge gets further, and we bring back things to Earth. You know, the technology that we use here in space eventually ends up in everybody's washing machine, in everybody's cars. And I'm sorry, before we were talking about robots, and I forgot about that. We are experimenting with robots here, all the places. You know, we humans do a lot of things very complicated, but when we are talking about repetitive tasks, doing the same thing 500 times, we tend to make mistakes. We tend to not to think about it. And robots instead are really, really good. So we are doing all sorts of things. And the other day, for example, I was telecommanding a robot in Munich, imitating what a crew would do on orbit around Mars, having this robot working on the surface of Mars. This allows us to understand all sorts of things in terms of telecontrolling, telerobotics, and advance our knowledge in that field.
Paolo, we're live here in London, but they're watching around the world. I know they're watching the Republic of Ireland as well. I have a question sent in from Wesley College in Dublin, and they are very keen to know what happens. Hello. They're very keen to know what happens if you get injured. Are you all trained medics, and how quickly can you get back to Earth in case of emergency?
Well, we are, all the astronauts are trained as medical officers in a certain way. I'm an engineer, but I was thrown in a hospital to do some training, so each one of us can do a first aid, and we have all sorts of equipment here that you can find in a first aid on in a hospital, actually. But in case of real serious problem, something that we cannot handle up here, then we take the whole crew, 3 people, we go back in our vehicle, in our Soyuz vehicle, the vehicle that carried us up here. We can jump in there, detach from the station, return to Earth, and in a matter of 4 or 5 hours, we are back to Earth, and where we can get all aids that we need.
Astonishing, it really is. Paolo, of course, you're one of our special guests, but I'm sorry to tell you, not the most important guest today, because we have 5 competition winners who entered a competition and have won the right to ask you a question. So would you please welcome up on stage Anushka, Eleni, Laura, Mary, and Verity.
Hey.
Now, Anushka. You must be Anushka.
Congratulations to the winner.
Well, Anushka is going to speak to you first. So what's your question for Paolo, Anushka?
Hi, Paolo. So my question for you is, what's the scariest experience you've encountered during your missions into space?
So what's...
Anushka, you need to speak louder. The space station is in space.
You better shout up to him, Anushka.
What's the scariest experience you've encountered during your missions into space?
The scariest experience you've had, Paolo?
And I'm sorry, Craig, I missed the first one. Which type of experience?
I think you're having it now. The scariest experience you've had in space, Paolo, on your 3 missions. The scariest, most terrifying, nerve-wracking experience you've had in space.
Now I got it. Yeah, well, I'm scared when I don't understand the questions and then I have to repeat it 3 times. But to tell you the truth, I mean... The scariest part of all being an astronaut is sometimes in training, because you get to do things in training that are out of this world, and the instructor throws at you all sorts of crazy things, and you think you cannot do it, and then eventually you learn that with the training, with the equipment, with the team, with mission control helping you, essentially you can do essentially everything. And I have to tell you the truth, with 3 missions in space, I haven't been in a situation where I was scared. I never found a situation where I didn't know what I was doing or I didn't know what was happening around me, because the training is really good. And I hope it stays like this, by the way.
So we have another question from Verity that follows on really well from that.
What made you take the huge risk of going into space?
And I'm sorry, I copy. What make you something going into space? Say again, please.
What made you take the huge risk of going into space?
Well, being an astronaut, going to space was my dream when I was a kid, and you know, dream when you're a kid kind of strange. But then when I grew up, I realized that well, I had the capability, the inclination, the technical mind, and so I pursued this career, and it's something that I like. It's I would say it's my passion, and I'm fortunate that I'm able to do as a job what is my passion. And I'm so fortunate, and I'm hoping that in the future will be the same situation for you too.
Now, Laura has a great question for you, Paolo, nice and slowly and clearly.
You first went into space 10 years ago. Can you notice a change in the way Earth looks now? Is it more lit up?
Laura, thank you for the question. Yes, I flew just about 10 years ago the first time, and it was on the space shuttle on a mission to build the International Space Station. It was a very short mission, and at that time, very short, 15 days was a long mission for the shuttle, but a short compared to the 6 months plus missions that we do these days. I think we were focusing at that time on technology, on building the station, on going to space. And today we are focusing our attention on being in space, living in space for long duration, having a crew that lives together, including the crew that is on the ground, extremely important to make sure that everything works together. And our focus is actually on science, on technology, on research. Most of our time is now spent on actually working here instead of building this station.
Mary's got another question to follow on. It's brilliant.
Good afternoon, Paolo. What do you feel would be the most revolutionary change in space exploration in the next 20 years, given the superb success of Voyager, Rosetta, and the Cassini missions recently?
Well, there are many things that we can do in space that are going to be revolutionary. If we think in terms of the sizes of the universe, we understand that we know very little, and we really did not go that far out of this planet. It was a very important step to go out of the planet, but now we need to continue our exploration. And this is, of course, through our robots, our satellites, with all the missions far away. But eventually, one of the most important steps will be continuing the exploration and land a human being on Mars, and eventually establish a settlement there and understanding what it means living permanently on a planet outside the Earth. I think that would change our mind, will make us understanding a little bit better about the universe and what is around us.
Eleni. It is Eleni, isn't it? Eleni has a question for you now. Eleni.
Hi, Paolo. Aboard the ISS, what happens to your senses, and how does this affect your life on the ISS?
Eleni, that's a very interesting question. You know, it takes about 5 to 6 weeks before you come on orbit, and you understand that you need to behave like an extraterrestrial person, and you can work in this situation and it's okay, nothing is happening. It's the same thing, and you don't need to work anymore on the local vertical established by the gravity. You make your own vertical, and that's really interesting. It makes for a very strong change of mind. And of course the senses behave differently. This is somehow an artificial place, so smell is kind of different, touch is different. I think the skin behaves differently, the fluid in the body works differently. Even even the internal organs inside us move differently. And these are, something that takes quite some time to get used to it, but when you get used to it, it's incredible. I mean, you feel so light, you feel like Superman, you feel like Spider-Man. You want to fly at the end of the module, you just fly at the end of the module. You want to come back, you just push and come back. And it's incredible and super, and I'm looking forward for everybody to experience this one.
Paolo, I think you'll agree there are great questions from Anushka, Eleni, Laura, Mary and Verity. Thank you so much for joining us on stage today. Thank you so much. Well done. Well done.
Well done.
Paolo, you see a sunrise every 92 minutes. Do you try and watch every single one? Do you still get blown away by sunrises?
Well, yes, sunrises, sunsets are spectacular. I don't have time to watch every single one. I usually in the evening after, when I'm supposed to sleep, by the way, I just go to the window to our cupola and I get to see at least one sunrise and one sunset. And by the way, these days we have incredible auroras. In my previous mission, I barely saw a couple, and here every night, every time it's dark, we have aurora in the North Pole and the South Pole. It's incredible, and I just marvel at this Earth. And I'm taking pictures, I'm taking time lapses, and I'm sending down on Earth to social media to make everybody be part of this incredible scenery that we can have up here.
Paolo, obviously you miss all your friends and family up there. You've got to spend 6 months in space. But what else are you missing from back here on Earth?
Yes, friends, family, very important. Yeah, we are human beings. We are social animals, and I miss the people around me. Space station, it's a very fast pace. We start around 7:30 in the morning, and we are on duty until like 8 o'clock in the evening. And that's official duty, and we still are on duty after that. Saturday and Sundays there's sometimes a little bit of free time, but I missed being able to relax completely. I miss the food a little bit, because here the food is all prepared and pre-conditioned. I miss going around with people, go out for a pizza. I miss actually talking to people and talking about space to people. But all of this I'm looking forward for all of this when I will come back to Earth in a few months.
Tell us about your most amazing experience to date in space.
Well, I had many amazing experiences. To be honest, I was doing one of the experiments here the other day, and I was looking at what was happening inside this experiment, and it was just amazing to look at how things behave completely. I would not have thought that things would behave in that way. Of course, this is interesting, incredible. The view of the Earth is incredible. I already mentioned that we have some spectacular auroras in the evening, and that's it. I mean, it's amazing the fact that we can be here out in space and feel human. Actually, it's very incredible how we feel more human when we are out of the Earth, and we miss Earth when we are out of the Earth. So this is really amazing and good.
Paolo, I know we're running out of time and you've got a busy schedule to get back to, but I think everybody here would like just one last demonstration of what it means for you in microgravity. What can you do up there?
We can do a lot of all sorts of strange things, like float some water. I don't know. It's even difficult to see. Float some water and then catch it in midair. so you don't need a glass here in space. You can flip around, I already did. You can do a somersault and not hurt yourself most of the time, because you can end up hitting your head if you're not careful. But the most incredible thing is that we can actually work here, and the science and research that we do here, it's essential, in my opinion, to further our knowledge. This is the most incredible thing.
Yeah, I wish you could see the faces here, young and old, an absolute awe of you. We've got about 20 seconds left. Do you have one last message to us here on planet Earth before you leave us?
Well, yes, I would like to say that, first of all, planet Earth is extremely beautiful, but we see from space how far we have gone as human beings in changing it, and we need to be careful on what we are doing to it. And then I would tell to the people there, especially to the young people there, that you need to look at your passions inside and try to make that happen. Work for it, because this will bring you to a successful life in the future. And if you allow me, I know that at the Italian Space Agency in Rome, they're also looking at this. I would like to say hello to them, to everybody at the Italian Space Agency. Buongiorno, ciao. And to everybody, we're looking forward to coming back to Earth and talk to you in person and have more time to share with you this incredible experience of being out of the Earth.
Thank you for sharing your very special life with us, Paolo. From everyone here in London to the space station and to yourself, grazie mille, ciao. Give him a big round of applause. Thank you, Paolo.
Craig, Libby from the International Space Station, London, from the International Space Station, thank you for watching us, and looking forward to watching you flying around the Earth. Bye-bye, ciao.
Station, this is Houston ACR.
Wow. Wow. That's amazing. What he meant by that was he can't wait to watch Leicester Tigers play Exeter live on BT Sport tomorrow from 2:30, and I can't blame him because it's going to be quite a game. Was that amazing? Was your favorite bit when he squeezed the water and caught a little water drop in his mouth? Give me a cheer if you want to be an astronaut.
I do. I'll cheer.
Paolo is 67 years old. That's his 3rd space mission. Okay, look how good he looks. He's fantastic.
Yeah,
so,
he's
you know something? Are we allowed to say he's... Sorry, 57. 60. Okay, 60 years old. 60, 67, same thing. I'm in TV. I lie about my age all the time. I understand what he's doing. Brilliant. Have you had a nice time, Libby?
I've had a wonderful time. Did that beat flying in a microgravity plane in your parabolas?
Oh, yes,
That
it
was
certainly
better.
did.
Yes.
And do you know what's lovely? When you look at Paolo's story and so many astronauts' story, it's a possibility for all you young people in this room. It's not just people like Paolo. Anyone, if they work hard, can live the dream that Paolo's living in some way, shape, or form. You can do Libby's job, or you can get yourself up to the space station if you work hard and really focus on what you want to do. Is that right?
Don't let anybody tell you you can't. I had a dream and I got to do it, and anybody else can do it. I promise you, you've just got to work hard and keep going.
Well, look, thank you so much today. We have to give a big round of applause to, of course, BT, to New Scientists Live, and, of course, to the European Space Agency for organising this brilliant experience today. So give them a big round of applause. And a very special cheer for Libby, who has the 2nd best job after being an astronaut in the world. Libby, thank you so much.
And a big cheer for Craig, who I think you've got the best job.
Now, back to school. Get back to school. All of you. Well done, everyone. Have a lovely day. Take care. Bye, 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 bye.